Darkness cloaks Crestwood Lodge, once bustling retreat, now swallowed by time and isolation. Cold wind sweeps through its broken windows, rattling the walls. From a distance, it appears as if the lodge itself is breathing, alive with something malevolent, unseen but felt. James Hawthorne, a man on a mission to confront the unimaginable. His flashlight flickers. For a moment, the silhouette of a shadowy figure crosses the window behind him. Sometimes we seek answers we aren't prepared to find. Sometimes the past holds more than just memories. James Hawthorne is a 36-year-old man, recently divorced and drifting through life. Successful architect by trade, James' life took a turn for the worse when his wife, Emily, left him after years of his obsessive work habits and emotional distance. After their split, James started having recurring nightmares, all centered around one place, Crestwood Lodge, a location he hadn't thought about since childhood. As a boy, James stayed at Crestwood Lodge with his parents before it mysteriously closed down. He remembers very little about the trip, except for strange, unexplainable occurrences. His mother and father never spoke of it afterward, and soon after that vacation, his mother grew ill and passed away. Now, nearly 30 years later, the dreams about the lodge have returned with a vengeance. The feeling of unfinished business haunts him every night. One foggy evening, unable to ignore the pull of his nightmares any longer, James sets out to return to Crestwood Lodge. Father, now elderly and in a care home, warns him not to go back. James is determined. Armed with little more than a flashlight, a camera, and a heavy sense of dread, he drives deep into the mountains of Oregon, where the lodge has stood vacant for decades. As he approaches the lodge, a chilling silence greets him. The air grows colder. The road is barely visible, as though the lodge itself is trying to hide from the outside world. Crestwood looms in front of him, its windows black and empty, like eyes staring out from a dead, forgotten soul. Once inside, James begins exploring, documenting everything with his camera. First, it seems like nothing more than an old, decrepit building. Dusty furniture, peeling wallpaper, rotting wooden beams. The deeper he ventures into the lodge, the more oppressive the atmosphere becomes. Strange things begin to happen. Footsteps echo in the hallways when no one is there. Shadows seem to move on their own. James notices the temperature drop drastically in certain rooms. The camera flickers and glitches, recording strange static and occasional whispers. It feels as though he is being watched, but every time he turns around, there's nothing there. He recalls from his childhood that he once stayed in room 305, a room his parents refused to let him enter again after that night. He doesn't remember why. His mind is foggy, and the memories are blurred. The need to understand drives him forward. James stumbles across old photographs and letters hidden in the lodge. One letter in particular stands out. It's from a previous owner of the lodge, detailing strange occurrences that drove guests mad. There are mentions of a woman in the shadows who haunted room 305. The letter describes how several guests went missing, and others left, babbling incoherently about dark figures and nightmares they could never escape. James begins to remember. As a child, he saw something in that room, something he couldn't explain, and something his parents tried desperately to shield him from. It was a woman, or at least it looked like a woman, standing in the corner of the room, her eyes black voids, her face twisted with rage and sorrow. Determined to find answers, James forces himself into room 305, despite the overwhelming fear clawing at him. Inside, the temperature plummets, and a dark presence presses down on him. He sees fleeting glimpses of the woman from his past, but now she is much more real, much more terrifying. She moves through the shadows, her hollow eyes fixating on him, following his every step. As James explores the room, the walls seem to close in. His flashlight flickers, and his breath turns visible in the frigid air. Suddenly, the door slams shut behind him, and the room is plunged into complete darkness. In that moment, the woman appears fully. Tall, gaunt, and unnaturally pale, with long, tangled hair and a voice that is barely more than a whisper. She tells him he was always meant to return, that his family had unfinished business with her. She reaches out, her cold fingers brushing against his skin, and James collapses to the floor, gripped by visions of his childhood. He now remembers. His mother was one of the women who disappeared at Crestwood Lodge. The illness that took her life was not an illness at all. It was the lodge itself. The spirit of the woman had marked James and his family long ago, and now she wanted him back. James struggles to escape the room. He breaks free from the woman's icy grasp and crashes through the door, fleeing down the hallways as the lodge itself seems to awaken, walls creaking and groaning as if alive. Shadows move faster now, chasing him, whispering his name. In the lobby, he stumbles upon a broken mirror. In the reflection, he doesn't see himself, he sees the woman. Her face, twisted in agony, stares back at him from within the glass. Panicking, James smashes the mirror and runs outside, but the lodge doesn't let go. As he sprints through the fog-covered woods, Crestwood Lodge looms behind him, its windows now glowing with an eerie, unnatural light. He makes it to his car and drives away, his heart pounding, but the camera, still recording, catches one final, chilling image in the rearview mirror. A woman, standing at the edge of the woods, watching him leave. Sometimes, the past never stays buried. Sometimes it waits for you to come back. Did James truly escape, or is the haunting far from over? The lodge remains, waiting for its next victim.